Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Nitai 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 Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari
Shri Ki Jai, Shri Radha Gopinath Ju Ki Jai, Satchinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Rupanuga Guru Vargya Ki Jai, Ananta Gauda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi. Om Avinatingarandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantamana Petyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammayatayo Taravabinidustam Sarvabhutam Munimanatoshmi Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayatutiraye. I first of all offer millions and millions of Dhanavad pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Astotar Zarashishiman, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nityalila Pravishta Om Astotar Zarashishiman, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord in Dhanavad pranams. So, in the last couple of weeks, we've extensively appreciated this Sri Siksastakam, these 8 prayers of instruction by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord, Brajendrananda Shri Krishna, in his manifestation, his most munificent manifestation as Sri Gaurasundara Mahaprabhu. And Gurudev describes the very essence of the essence of the essence of what we've discussed. We've been through so many different considerations of what is bhakti, how does bhakti manifest, how can I practice bhakti, what are the stages in bhakti. Bhakti Devi herself is manifesting from Sri Radha. Sri Radha has the most devotion in existence. She is the Swarup Shakti of Krishna, manifesting directly from Krishna. So Bhakti Devi is manifesting from Sri Radha, but it's an eternal truth in the heart of all jivas. Bhakti means to serve or devotion. Bhaje, it comes from the root verb bhaje, to serve. Devotion. Service, we've described many times, is the symptom of love and affection. It's what every living entity in existence is hankering for. Most who are not educated are looking in all the wrong places. Not being educated means that I am thinking that this pleasure or taste in that quality of love is for me to find, for me to enjoy. As long as I have that equation, it's like 1 + 1 = 3. Nothing can move on when you've got the wrong premise initially. If it's me being centered, if it's me searching for my bliss, my happiness, this means avidya, this means ignorance. This is not educated. So I was thinking this morning, how remarkably blessed we are to have this divine education. Most of us came for that personal bliss or happiness or relief from suffering. That was why we came to Krishna consciousness. But then after some time, we're appreciating that actually Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Bhaktaramya Gyatapa Sham Sarvalokana Heshwaram. He is that supreme entity. And the bliss derived from serving that supreme entity is trillions and zillions of times more than this insignificant bliss that I might either enjoy in this world, Jad Anand, or I might enjoy in the Brahmand, in impersonal liberation, Brahmanand, or I might even enjoy in Vaikuntha, Vaikunthanand. We've discussed all of these different gradations. So we see that everything is in stages, our levels of consciousness, the path to unfold them, the deepening awareness we began so many years ago, deepening our awareness of existence through Sambandha, Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of myself, the jiva, knowledge of who is Krishna, and knowledge of the world around me. These are three principal vastus. Vastu means something that cannot be broken down, so to speak. It has an essential essence to it. Krishna is a vastu. The jiva is a vastu. This material energy, the external energy, is a vastu. Mayadevi is a vastu. It's something, it's the essence of something. So this is what Sambandha means. So through these verses, we are appreciating relationship. And relationship is love. And this is the sar, the bhakti sar. Sar means essence. The essence is that. And a child can understand. It's not a difficult thing to understand. If the practitioner is sincere in his endeavors, it will take no time at all to cross these various boundaries of consciousness and actually come to new stages of understanding my situation in this world. It's not a difficult task. It requires courage. It requires knowledge. With knowledge, my faith will deepen. When I have knowledge of these absolute truths, just like the materialist, the poor, suffering materialist, he's in ignorance and he's working so hard to try and find some juice. And he's constantly beset by frustrations because what he's searching for is like an illusion. He's in illusion, searching for deeper illusion. It's tragic. Only when the sadhak's heart begins to appreciate the suffering nature of those who don't have this knowledge, can he go to real higher stages? Because this is when his own nature of compassion will begin to rise. You will be never happy living like a miser. If you hear this knowledge and you just hold on to it, that's not the dynamic to make it grow. The dynamic to make it grow is serving this knowledge by giving this knowledge. There must be a mood of service to humanity. First, it was like, physician, heal thyself. First, we have to become something purified, otherwise how can we assist anybody? But we should appreciate how much progress we've made. I described once before that Srila Gurudev said at the end of one Kartik festival, don't think you have no bhakti. What sort of guru am I if you don't have any bhakti? Of course you have bhakti. But do you want to make that bhakti grow? Or do you want to make your own material situation more comfortable? We're getting old, all of us. Even a little baby is getting old. Kalyadaman is getting old today. It's his 50th birthday. This is a very significant age to realize this point. Old age is the mercy of the Lord. Things start to deteriorate. An intelligent man will start to ask more significant questions. It's part of the chemistry. How merciful is the Lord? How endlessly compassionate is He? In every single stage, He's giving us mercy. Old age is absolute mercy. He's reminding us clearly, you are not this body. It is breaking down. How much value does this material casing have to you? It's going to finish sooner or later. What does have value? And Srila Gurudev, at the end of this Siksastakam, he's quoted one very beautiful verse, which again is the Bhakti Sa. It's the very essence of the essence of the essence. He quotes, Radhayo Bhagavan Brijesha, Tanayas Tad Dhamma Vrindavanam, Ramya Kachit Upasana Braja, Vardu Vargena Vakavita, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumato Nata, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mata Idam Tatradaro Naparaha. Gurudev says in his shloka book, I'll read it to you. I want to read this exactly to you because Arade. Aradeyo Bhagavan Jeshva. It's right at the beginning of the book where the prominent verses are. And Gurudev is saying at the end of this, he's saying this verse and another verse. And he's saying that there's a comment at the end. Where is it? Oh, editorial note. No, different. Huh? This verse is at the very conclusion of Siksastakam. Say? Yes, yes. But also in the verse book, Gurudev is saying that unless you really know, or if you don't know this verse and the Dasamula verse, then Gurudev is saying he doesn't really consider you his disciple. It's not about knowing verbatim, being able to pronounce it. It's being able to know the heart of it. Gurudev is giving his heart, and that person who is claiming to be a follower of that individual will obviously be looking at the heart of that individual to follow. So if you're not looking at what is Gurudev's heart, what is his manobishta, what is his inner intention, how can you actually claim to be a disciple? You may be of a type of disciple, but Gurudev is not really taking you very seriously because you're not really taking him very seriously. Again, it's reciprocation. Again, it's relationship. If Gurudev perceives that you are taking him very seriously, you are really listening to his instructions and words, you are trying to catch up the essence of his words. If he sees that, then how much more will he bucket mercy on us? It's just like in life, you know? You see a small child, a child's dharma is to ask from the parents. And the parents' dharma is to give to the child. That's always the relationship. But when that child, at some point in his life, decides to give something back, how much does it melt the heart of the parents? Completely. Imagine a small boy, 11 years old, he saves up all the pocket money his father gave him and buys him something very beautiful and says, "Oh, here you are, Dad." How much will that melt the heart of the father? It's his money initially, but the little boy has chosen to give it back. Similarly with us. Gurudev is like the father. He's giving us, giving us, giving us, giving us, giving us. When is it payback time? When can I express my gratitude? And certainly our gratitude will be expressed by understanding his heart. What does he want? He wants us to understand this verse deeply. So many lectures he's spoken on this verse, on the principles of this verse. The principles of this verse, Aradeyo Bhagavan Rajesha Tanayas. That Tanayas means coming from the body. Coming from the body of who? This Nanda Baba. Aradeyo Bhagavan Rajesha Tanayas Tat. Who is that Bhagavan? Is he Dwarkadish? Is that Bhagavan? In Mathura they will say so. Is he Mathura's Krishna? In Mathura also they will say that. Is he Parthasarthi? If you go in most places in India, they will say, yes, that is Bhagavan. Or is Bhagavan Hanuman? Many will say that. In the Shiva Shastras, it's proclaiming that Shiva is actually the Supreme Lord. And he is the Supreme Lord, but he's not the Supreme Lord. So, there are many names of Bhagavan. There are so many aspects to Bhagavan, like we were describing yesterday in that beautiful tattva, Advaya Gyan Paratattva. One of the objections was, there are so many different aspects to Bhagavan, so there's difference. But I was explaining, like these stages of the moon, they're actually all full moon, they're all Brajendranandan Shri Krishna. So now who is Bhagavan? Bhagavan is Brajendranandan Shri Krishna. This is Tanayas. And his holy Dham is most worshipable. Aradeyo. Aradeyo means to worship. Aradeyo Bhagavan. I'm worshipping Bhagavan. Who Bhagavan? Which Bhagavan? Gurudev explains so many times on this particular point of the gradations of Krishna. It's not just all one. Just like we are not all one. You have the, what do you call, macrocosm and the microcosm. In our sense, you exhibit a certain personality to the workman. You exhibit another personality to a dear friend. You exhibit another personality to your husband. You exhibit another personality yet to Sri Guru. All have their different, but who is? What is my swarup? What is my real nature? My real nature as a Jivatma is a servant of Krishna. Jivara Sarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. That's my nature. And Krishna's nature, Krishna's swarup, his real essence, is when he is tasting the highest rasa. Radha Kant, Radha Gopinath, Radha Damodar, Radha Raman, Radha Gokulananda. This is the highest swarup that Krishna shows. This is his highest form. So the devotee worship of this Krishna, Brajendranandan Shri Krishna, This is the ultimate. So we have to know this, because we will meet so many others who don't agree with that or honor that, whatever. Doesn't matter. You know, there's no battle here for supremacy, so long as we know. And also his Dham of Sri Vrindavan. What is the speciality of Sri Vrindavan? Rupa Goswami is saying, Tishtan, what's that? Tishtan Anuragi Janugami. Following the residence of Sri Vrindavan is the essence of all advice. Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtana Smrityu Kramana Rasana Misidyocha. Tishtem Braji Tanuragi Janugami. Tishtem Braji, these residents of Vrindavan. It's the essence of all advice. What? You had a question?
One comment that Gurudev, he mentioned one time, because you mentioned just before that, not to take anyone's faith. It's not a fight.
Right.
Because sometimes we want to defeat other lines and other things. But Gurudev, I heard him by his own mouth. He said, never, ever, ever take any faith from no one, even if somebody worships a tree. Just leave them. Because if you take that faith, they have nothing. Because they didn't develop yet.
This is described, Tungi, in Chaitanya Shikshamrita by Srila Bhaktivedanta. He takes great pains to write exactly this, that all living entities should be fully respected. You can take that a little bit far, just like now. I'll tell you a funny story. In Durvasa, we sometimes get stray dogs coming into the temple. So my friend Rasa Bihari Prabhu, who's in charge of Durvasa, he collected a lot of rocks, to throw at the dogs to chase them out of the temple. So he had 5 or 6 rocks left over. So he threw them beside a tree, the main tree in the courtyard. And after a few days, the locals, they saw these rocks there, and they started to come and offer pranam to them. And then one day, one lady came out, she put kumkum on them. And another day, they came out and put some rice on them. And now, every day, they come and they circumambulate these rocks, and they offer things to these rocks. And Rasa Bihari, he doesn't want to break their faith. He doesn't want to tell them, actually, I just picked these up from the gutter to throw at dogs, So, you can't take it a little bit far like that, especially in India. They'll worship anything. If they see one old lady bending down to tie a shoe up, they'll all think, oh, she's offering obeisances or something, and they'll all come behind and offer obeisances. It's like that. They have that, sense of worship. It's very sweet, and it's better than being the other way. But the heart of what is completely incorrect, When you go there, you'll see these rocks. They've all got now they're even putting faces on them. It's amazing. We won't let them put tulsi on them.
It's Govardhan, right?
No, it's just rocks from the gutter in, Ishapur. It's Lohavan. It's not. It's not as exalted as Vrindavan. But we're talking about Vrindavan. Yes, this is a point. I am so much hearing, and understanding this point. The devotee wants to make another person's faith strong in whatever it's strong, and he builds on top of that. If you destroy the little bit that he has in anything, you have no foundation to build anything else on. If you have something of value and you can build on their misplaced faith, after some time they will realize that the insignificance of that faith, and it'll be purified. But the palace of what you wanted to give them will already be there. So never try to dismantle someone. Never try to argue with. How many people have died in the name of Christianity or Islam, etc.? And do you know that for 100,000 years, the Hindu nation have not attacked another nation? They don't have a philosophy. They don't have a mood of aggression. Principally, I think, because they don't kill animals. Predominantly, of course, now it's changing, but that has a lot to do with it. But just be respectful. So the first line of this Shloka, Aradeyo Bhagavan Brijesha Tanayas Taddan Vrindavana. That Sri Krishna, Sri Brajendranandan Krishna is that Supreme Lord. And his Dham is the most worshipable place. The Dham is made up of the dust of the Dham. Buildings come and go, but the dust, that is eternal. And the dust has been walked on by all the saints and sages for so many thousands of years. Krishna himself walked here. The cowherd boys walked here. Srimati Radharani and all the gopis walked here. Mother Yashoda, Nanda Baba. This is the power that the devotee, the sadhak, is looking to connect. He connects with that through his intensity of his meditation on Radha and Krishna, on his bhajan. It will become alive to us. We're looking to connect with that conception of Sri Vrindavan. Even if you leave Sri Vrindavan, there's nothing actually to replace living in Vrindavan. It doesn't matter where you go, it's not quite the same as for the Ajatarati sadhak who has not attained the stage of bhav. There's no place as potent as Vrindavan or Govardhan. But still, if we carry this conception into the world, you can almost see it as an intensity. If you go and sit in London town or Amsterdam or somewhere, you have such an internal intensity developed from being here, and that creates a potency that can influence people towards this conception. But always, of course, as we've just said, in a sensitive, respectful way. If you just, like, for example, meeting with your parents or someone like that, some older people always have to be right. It's their dharma. It's the nature of parents. It's not for the son or the daughter to try and tell the parents what's going on. That's not going to create, you're not going to influence that way. But if you're very submissive, after some time, they will appreciate your qualities. And then when they understand our connections to Radha and Krishna, then they will respect Radha and Krishna from that place, not from trying to hammer them over the head. I know in the early days we used to try that. Terrible. So this first line, Aradeyo Bhagavan Brijesha Tanayas Taddam, this is the most worshipable object, Sri Krishna and his Dharma of Sri Vrindavan. Now, who are the upasana? Who are those people who are highest in offering worship to that personality and that Dharma? That's Ramya Kachit Upasana, worship. Ramya Kachit Upasana Braja Vardu Varagena Valkalpite. These are the gopis of Vrindavan. The gopis of it, the young brides, Vadu, Braj, the young brides of Vrindavan. They are showing the highest exhibition of love in this universe. Not just this universe, in all universes. So Krishna left them for 100 years to intensify that affection for him, as well as to show to all humanity the enormity of their love, to show the height of their love. We were describing yesterday how Sri Radha at Kurukshetra is telling Krishna, when Krishna comes to apologize to her for being away for so long, Sri Radha is saying, no, I'm apologizing to you. If I had really loved you, I would have left my body. But Gurudev often describes that because of their love for Krishna, they thought leaving their body would make Krishna unhappy. So they didn't leave their bodies because of their selfless affection for Krishna. So by Krishna leaving Vrindavan, he's heightening the worship and honor towards the gopis in this world. We're seeing the extent of their love for Krishna, the height of their moods in their relationship with Krishna. We had the beautiful pastime in Brahmara Geet, where Sri Radha and all the gopis, Gurudev describes that Uddhava, he's just come to Vrindavan as a messenger. He's tried to pacify Nanda Baba and Yashoda, and he fails miserably. And in the morning he goes to take bath in Krishna Kund, And then he turns round and he looks, and there's a forest of kadamba trees, huge, huge, big kadamba trees. And he sees right in the very heart of that forest an illumination. And then he's understanding, oh, these are the lights of the gopis. The gopis are there. This is the light of their hearts. And then he goes to that camp of the gopis, because the gopis haven't left there. They haven't left since Krishna left with Akrura. Expansions went back to their villages, but they themselves stayed there. How could they leave? Krishna had taken their very life with them. They just stayed in that encampment, so to speak, for practically 100 years. That's how Gurudev describes. That's why Udapkiri is such a sacred, special place. So there, Uddhava, he goes and he sees this one this personality, Sri Radha, and she's so emaciated, it's described. Her breasts have become all black, and she's just practically a whisper away from leaving this world. And then she comes, some energy comes into her, and she starts chastising the bumblebee, who she describes as Krishna, in her madness. And she goes through these 10 different stages of madness that we described the other day, that are manifesting in her heart. So when the devotee reads the height of their love and affection, just like Uddhava, when Uddhava saw the height of the gopis' love, Gurudev always describes how someone looks at a mountain and their hat falls off, it's so high. So like that, he's looking at the height of their praying. We need to have this example to progress. We are called Rupanugas, Rag Anugas, following in the footsteps of those who have fully soaked their Atmas in Raga Atmika. We can't proceed without following. It's not something of the imagination, any of our path. We would not be sitting here, intelligent people, would not be sitting here year after year after year after year if this was something imaginary. It's hitting the core of our being. That's why we're here. That's why we stay here. Even mentally we want to run away sometimes, but something inside is saying no. Something even greater than the mind is saying no, remain, no. This is in our best interest. Sometimes we come in contact with the devotees and we don't quite know why we are remaining so long. But actually the soul is satisfied in that association. The soul is completely happy in front of Radha Gopinath. It's completely satisfied in front of Gaurasundara Mahaprabhu. It's totally satisfied hearing any topics at all connected with them. Maybe the mind might be wandering and so on, but internally we want to stay in that place because that's the reality. That's why we're here. So this is the core truth. So these first two lines, first is the establishment of Rajendrananda, and then is Vrindavan itself, the Dham, and then is the most worshipable personalities of that individual Sri Krishna are the gopis. And then the third line, Srimad Bhagavatam, Pramanam, it's the Praman. Ramya Kachit Upasana Vraja Vardu Vargena Vraja Vardu Vargena Ya Kalpita. Ramya means pleasing. Who pleases the most by their worship, their process of worship? The Rajavadus. Kalpita. This Vadu Vargena Ya Kalpita. This Kalpita means by performing. Performing. You should find a copy of this. I have it on file in a large size, and you should stick it on the wall. You know how to one way of learning verses. So many different ways. When you learn any verse, you should know what is the word for word meaning. It makes it a lot easier to learn it if you know what is each individual word. And if you know what is the etymology, what is the breakdown of the word, like Aradeyo means to worship. Aradeyo. This is where the name Radha comes from. That personality who worships the most, who is most pleasing to Krishna. I remember I used to learn verses like this every single time I took a bath. I would sing that particular verse for sometimes months to actually just be able to remember it. But Gurudev has said about this particular verse that we should at least be familiar with its meaning. And this verse that we're talking about today is the conclusion of our Siksastakam. Gurudev concludes with this verse. So it's very wonderful that we're doing this verse today. Now, we've come to the third line. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Punato Nata. That this is the Amala Purana. Amala means sweet, Purana. And it is the Praman. It is the evidence to support what has just been said. The evidence that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, Brajendranandan Krishna, and Vrindavan is the most worshipable place, and the gopis are the highest exhibitions of worship, is supported by the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the principal support for these essential truths. We see in the Bhagavatam, right at the very beginning, it's saying, Krishne svardaramo pajite dharma janadi visaha kalo nasadrisham esha purana kodanodita. That this Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun. It has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna for his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Men who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of this age shall get light from this Purana. This is the Bhagavat Purana. This Purana will give light in the darkness of this most intense Kali Yuga. Throughout the Bhagavatam, it's again a gradation of consciousness. The first 9 cantos we've described are like establishing the reality of our relationship with Krishna. And it's taking us through different aspects of Krishna, different visions of Krishna. In the first canto, there are so many amazing questions by the sages at Naimisharanya. Sonaka Rishi, he's asking Sutta Goswami what took place between the conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami. And then we hear Shukadev Goswami himself is manifesting at that assembly near Hastinapur, where Parikshit Maharaj was seated. And then the great Bhagavatam, we're hearing directly from Shukadev Goswami. And in the first canto, there's descriptions of Krishna leaving this world, because there's no chronological order through the Bhagavatam. Because ultimately in the spiritual essence, there's no such thing as time, actually. It's all in the eternal present. So we kind of like start at the end and we finish at the end at the same time. And it's very profound. Then in the second canto, it's about the glories of the Purush avatars and the different personalities. And it's showing the greatness of Krishna. The third canto is about Devahuti, Kadama Muni, etc. Fourth is about, the third is also about Dhruva and Prithu Maharaj and Archie. And then the fourth is about Puranjan. And the fifth is the cosmic manifestation. And the fifth is also Jad Bharat. The sixth is Chitraketu, Maharaj Charita. And what else is in the sixth? Vritrasura. Huh? Ajamil, yes, especially Ajamil. And then seventh is Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu. And then eighth is like different pastimes between the demigods and Krishna and the demons, churning of the ocean of milk, etc. Ninth is about Ambarish Maharaj and Ramachandra, Lord Ramchandra, and so many other pastimes. But it's all conversations between kings. Narada Muni speaking to kings. It's all because those sort of conversations, people think, oh, they must be important, they're worth listening to. If it was just conversations between farmers or people sitting on the side of the road, people wouldn't give it that much prominence. But because it's all in a royal court, generally people honor that more. So it's all colored in a royal setting practically from start to finish. It's all at the top of society. These Raja Rishis are explaining these truths. And then we come to the beautiful shining face of the Lord. In the 10th canto, this is the Prayojan Tattva. Because when Vedavyas had written the 54 Puranas, the Itihasyas, the Mahabharata, and divided the one Veda into 4, this Artha Veda, Yagya Veda, the Rig Veda, the Soma Veda, and give them out to his disciples. And then he'd spoken the Bhagavad Gita even in the Mahabharata. That had already been spoken. But he was dissatisfied. This is in the very beginning of the great epic of the Bhagavatam. And then Narada Muni comes and pinpoints his dissatisfaction that he hasn't actually spoken about the sweet glories of Brajendranandan Krishna. And when he begins to do this, he sees them first in trance. Narada Muni allows that trance to manifest in his consciousness. He sees in trance those pastimes, and then he writes them down, or Ganesh writes them down. 18,000 verses in the whole Bhagavatam. But then when it comes to this part, this Prayojan describing the character and childhood pastimes, this is the part that is most attractive to the jiva. This is the most attractive to the heart. These loving, intimate, sweet. We're no longer in a world of kings and royal order when we come into the 10th canto. We're in a tiny little village of Vrindavan, and we're hearing and talking about just these personal relationships amongst themselves, between Mother Yashoda and Krishna, between Nanda Baba and Krishna, between the gopis and Krishna, between Krishna and the cowherd boys. All the demons that Krishna kills, the cowherd boys become so happy, Dhenukasura, etc. Then these demons that try and kill Krishna when he's a little baby, Trinavrata, Putana, etc. We hear all these poets, Shakatasura. And then we come in the chapter 29 to 32, the part when Krishna actually calls the gopis to perform the Rasa Leela. This is considered the crest jewel of Krishna's pastimes, is the Rasa Leela. Don't neglect it. We must dive into hearing those descriptions, because it is the top of the top of the top. It's the Prayojan of the Prayojan of the Prayojan, that divine Rasa Leela. And then, following the Rasa Leela, or within the Rasa Leela even, we have the moods of separation simultaneously. We have, prior to that, we have Venu Geet, when this Purva Rag is developing. And then we have Gopi Geet itself in those chapters. Great separation. Then we have Yugal Geet. This is also great separation. Your wonderful Krishna in separation. Then we have Brahmara Geet, even greater separation that we've just described. So all of these are in the Bhagavad. This is the Praman. This itself, these Geets, Yugal Geet, Venu Geet, Brahmara Geet, Gopi Geet, these songs of separation are the Praman, showing that Brajendranandan is the highest quintessence of love. And it's showing those people who worship that, who are recipients of that, who are participating in that love, are the gopis. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's supporting, it's the evidence for these two principles, or three principles: Krishna, his Dham, and the gopis. These three principles, fully endorsed and supported by the evidence from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we see at the end of the Bhagavatam, after those Vrindavan pastimes, then how to access them. What is the Abhideya Tattva? First we hear the beauty. We get attracted to the personal sweetness of Krishna. Not just his meeting sweetness, but we also hear of the separation, which intensifies our affection and attraction. And then we have the 11th canto, which describes the Abhidheya. And the principal teaching throughout the 11th canto, the principle in the Uddhav Gita, etc., is about detachment. So many... I described this a few days ago, last week. That whole 11th canto I talked in one class about the story of the club, etc., the curse by the rishis and grinding the cub, and the conflict amongst the Yadus, the Bhojas, the Yadavas, themselves, their own family, annihilating each other. So Krishna himself is demonstrating his own detachment from his family by example, and then he's teaching it in between, because at the beginning of the 11th it starts this pastime, and at the end it concludes, and in the middle it's his instruction to Uddhava. And in this instruction to Uddhava there's about 24 gurus, so many pastimes are described there, but the principal essence is being detached from this world. And this is the Abhidheya, this is the process. There's a verse, Bhakti Parashenu Vivar Viraktiya Anyakta Kaisatri Kala Ekala Prapadyamanasha Yatasaroshus Tushti Pushti Shud Apayu Nugusham. This is saying that Bhakti, Paramesh and Virakti, devotion, darshan of Krishna, and Virakti, detachment. So devotion is stimulated, inspired through our sambandha. That darshan of Krishna is in the prayojan. And the abhidheya, the method to appreciate that and understand that, is only by detachment. Ultimately, yukta vairagya. So we have to understand this principle. We hear the beauties of the Lord, we hear the beauty of sadhana bhakti, but how to enter, how to practice. We are not interested in just words. There's actually, I read this quote the other day. It's saying that the ability to speak, what is it? The ability to speak the ability to speak wise words or words of virtue does not make the person who's speaking them necessarily a saint. In other words, you can speak lots of nice things, but it doesn't mean that your character is necessarily, of value. We don't want that. We want something much more significant than that. We want a living experience of spiritual reality to flower in our hearts. So we want to go to the method. What is the method to attain this darshan of Brajendranandan in Vrindavan? This is all in the context of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us this in its entirety. It's carrying us in to Vrindavan. Without the Bhagavatam, you cannot enter Vrindavan. How can you? How can you understand? What will you understand? Most of the sadhus, or many of the sadhus who live in Vrindavan, they read the Srimad Bhagavatam. They love the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, his commentaries on the Bhagavatam will carry us into new awarenesses. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, his commentaries also. Srila Gurudev, we're hearing from Pujabhat Vishnu Daivata Maharaj in Rup Sanatan, he's speaking. What's the canto that he's speaking from? Is it the third, is it? 10th canto. He's translating Gurudev's commentaries. Very, very profound. So Gurudev would, wherever he would travel, would teach from this teaching of this Amala Purana, this sweetest Purana, most juicy Purana. So this is our praman to establish these three principles in the first two lines. That Krishna, Brajendranandan Krishna, and his Dham are most worshipable. And those people with the highest worship and honor are the Vrajavadus, the young wives of Vrindavan. Now, the final cream, icing, strawberry on the end of the cake is in the last line. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mata Idam Tatradaro Paraha. that he is of this opinion. It is his opinion. He is empowering this truth to be understood by us today. This is the complete culmination. I described before how if you're hearing in some assembly many Rasik topics, but you don't ever hear the name Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you might become a little bit shy of actually staying there. I would be, personally, if I didn't hear enough balance and connection with Sri Chaitanya. We can only access these truths by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's only his mercy that I can hear these things. He has empowered his holy name. That's what he's given. There are descriptions of why he has advented. Very clear, very simple descriptions. His 3 desires, we've discussed so many times. To actually enter into those desires will show us what is this Unnata Ujvala Prem, what is the height of these descriptions in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which are only reinforcing these first 3 truths of Krishna being the Supreme Lord, his Dham being the most worthy, and the Brajavadus. All of these 3 are fully embraced in every single way through the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the method and process he's given us is simply just to chant Hare Krishna, is going to carry us into these highest conceptions. So all these truths are fully supported. They're of the opinion. What's the actual translation it's saying? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauravani. This is the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gauravani. We hold this conclusion, Siddhanta, in supreme regard and have no inclination or respect. That's not the same. This is the opinion. Matam, it means opinion. Idam, this. This is the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's saying here in the word for word that Mahaprabhu equals Maha, indicates Mahabhav, that is Radhika, and Prabhu indicates Rasaraj Mahabhav, Krishna. Okay. But in essence, we have the full stop on the sentence, the final reinforcement that this is the absolute reality, because it's endorsed entirely by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We can't even begin the journey without Mahaprabhu. So we've talked a lot about the reasons for Mahaprabhu's identity, and I've described very clearly the history from Krishna to Mahaprabhu to give us a complete understanding that Mahaprabhu is Krishna. He is Krishna entirely, but with the mood of Sri Radha. So this whole sweetness of the Lord's activities and pastimes being gifted to us. This verse, Prem Ras Niryase Karite Ashwadan. He's tasting Prem, and then Rag Mag Bhakti Loke Karite Prachan. Then Rasik Shekha, Krishna, Karuna. He's the most Rasik, and he's the most compassionate. Compassionate, he's gifting this conception to us. How could we go anywhere else? How could there be anything else? What else is in existence more clearly defining and describing and stepping out, step by careful step, what is the absolute reality like? This is called knowledge. To understand this is the only worthwhile knowledge having. To know what is the supreme reality, how can I access that, who am I? This is supreme knowledge. Without this vidya, we are in avidya. We are illusioned about everything. And if we have this by some great fortune, if we're given this, then, as I described at the beginning, to make the current swift and the process fast, then we have to speak it. We have to share it. If you just take it and don't let it out, it's not going to go very fast. It needs to be distributed in one way or another. And there are so many hundreds and thousands of different ways how to do it. You can paint a picture, literally. You can speak to someone, you can write something, you can play some music, you can support. So many different ways. But something, bhaje, I said, was the root of bhakti, to serve. Service must be there. If there's no service, then everything is going to dry up. Service is the symptom of love. Without that service, we're not even hooking in. Somehow or other, we must be greedy for that. But understand it in relationship to our connection with the Supreme, with our relationship with Sri Radha and Krishna and Guru. How is my relationship with Guru growing? Gurudev responded when he was asked that question, if you're always feeling gratitude and always feeling that you can never, ever, ever, ever do enough, doesn't matter what you've done, how much you've collected, how big a temple you've built, whatever you've done, it's never sufficient. If you thought it was, then it would be the checking, the flow, of stopping the current. Do you think Radha, Krishna ever feel that their love has reached a limit? Love has no limit, it's infinite. We're not on track if we think that, we've done something. And simultaneously to that, thinking that I've done something, this horrible phantom of pride will come and annihilate all my progress completely. As soon as this comes into play. And where does pride come from? Envy. Where does envy manifest itself from? Criticism. As soon as I'm criticizing anybody, even an ant, a dog, a cat, I'm compromising my bhakti immediately. No question. Absolutely. You can't chant Hare Krishna in that environment of finding faults. Finding faults. So damn what? Are you so clever you can find faults in this and that? So what? The materialists, they're so clever at that. Why should we follow them? We want to be like bees and find the sweetness, the honey. And it's there. It's our choice. I said the other day, we have choice. We don't have a result of the choice. But our choice is to choose either be like a fly or be like a bee. And this choice might be 200 times in a day. We have to become reassured. We have to become convinced. Krishna and Guru will give us a lot of mercy if we don't become convinced. He'll smack us on the head so hard. He'll keep us down in the doldrums. He'll keep the sky dark. He'll keep everything sort of rocky and turbulent around us if we're not actually on this, more pure vision of each other. Without this strength of respect for each other, at least it should begin in the society of devotees and Vaishnavas. If this is not building here, then what do you have to offer the world anyway? Somebody was once saying at one time, we spend all this money and sweat and blood printing books, translating the books and distributing them, and then, finally we manage to give one book to somebody, and then that person comes back for another book, and then he actually wants to move into the temple, and then we start to criticize him. Why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? Oh, he's just out of it, blah, 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 blah. Oh, what's the value? What happened to that loving vision? What happened to it? We became contaminated by the envious material environment we live in. Just like the block of ice has lost its identity. The ice is liquid, but it's lost its identity due to the harshness and coldness of the environment. It's become something else which it's not. We have to remember who we are. That's why we hear these verses, to remember that I'm a servant of Krishna. And what is the essence of my worship? This is all described in here. And the more seriously we take it, the more, diligently we practice, the more easily these truths will be revealed. And it's as if all of the winds from the demigods and all auspiciousness just comes to support our path. Once we're very assured of my direction, once I'm very confident of Srila Gurudev's extreme affection for me, once I'm very confident of Radha and Krishna's love for me, not my love for them, what can I love them, how can I do that? but I'm assured of their love for me. I can see this, at least, how much they care for me. Then life is easy. Then it's like you come under the guidance of Yogamaya. Mahamaya starts to slip away. She's no longer affecting your life. And then Yogamaya is just making all these very simple, clear arrangements for your sojourn in the rest of this life. Nothing becomes a difficulty. Okay.
I have a question about criticism.
Can you criticize somebody?
If I say something and another person accepts it as criticism, whether it's criticism or not, does that count?
Be careful. Be careful. It's so apparent. It's so in the atmosphere. It so easily drops out. Probably before 12 o'clock this morning, all of us will have criticized in so many different ways at different times. Sometimes people want to create a confidence with each other. Did you hear about what so-and-so did the other day? He did this and this and that. They think, oh, this has been really secret. This is some sort of relationship. It needs courage. Prabhu, I don't really want to hear that at the moment. Thank you very much. And the devotees actually usually immediately respond in a positive way if you say like that. I think I told you before, once when I was in family life, I made a contract with my wife, because in family life it can be very easy to criticize because you're so familiar with each other. But we made a contract. All right, it's $2 every time you say something negative about somebody. And you only have to do that once, because neither party actually want to go into that world. It's not a tasteful world. It's not a sweet world. So if you do it unintentionally and someone takes that, you probably just haven't expressed yourself properly. But you should realize that we're all culprits of this. Me the most. Honestly, I can say that, more than anyone here. You know, I have criticized more than anybody, I'm sure. But at some point, we have to just get like, just don't want any more of that. You know, you get so sick of it. We pray for that. Pray to get absolutely, you know, and therefore when we speak, be very careful and make sure that it's not coming out in some sort of... Gurudev said repeatedly, you can't change anybody. Guru can change someone by entering the heart. We can inspire each other. And if something is not to our liking or taste, then just avoid it. But have some respect for the individuality of it. We're not all in one box. This is a difficulty in institutional life. We try and cram each other in. You're all wearing the same thing, same tea, like saying this, yes, we're all one all together. Why isn't he doing this? Why isn't she doing that? Why isn't he doing this? Rubbish. We're all completely individuals. That's the most beautiful part about us. Can't we appreciate more deeply each other's unique specialities? Each of us has a particular rasa with the Lord. A very, very individual relationship that no one else in existence has ever had or ever will have. It's utterly unique to us. And that's what Krishna wants to taste. It's a very, very wonderful speciality about the individual. Don't try and knock everyone into thinking the same way that you think. Rather be amazed and astonished at, you know, the remarkable individuality, especially amongst devotees. And appreciate it, that's all. You have a question?
Yeah, but it's a very good question. It's like, happens often as well. You know, devotees use that, I just remain a fact, I just let it a fact. You know, that person knew that or did that. It's just based on fact. It's not critic, but it's a fact. And also don't. But actually, especially in my case, it's first year here in Raj, and you know, I don't know devotees. I just don't want to know about them in a negative way. I think it's facts. And seriously, because after I get this kind of things where I chant, or even if when I just see other person, even if you know they don't really
It's very hard.
It's really important because after your heart getting polluted, and it's really, really hard to remove the sweet from your heart.
What to do? What to do? What to do?
Just don't speak about people.
We all go around in monobroth, you know? This is why on my japa retreats, we have silence. It's supposed to be monobroth. No one ever does keep quiet. But this is part of the reason for monobroth. So you don't... Actually, on all of the retreats that I hold, we never have any politics, because we never have any talking outside the temple. So therefore, you can't have any of these political things. It's only when you have so much chitter-chatter and when the mind is not strongly engaged. But this is the challenge. What is your name again? Madhavi. This is the challenge, Madhavi. We're here, now it's a challenge. You can't run away from it. You know, we should make our relationships with devotees. Dadati pradignati guyam. It's the 4th verse of Upadeshamrita. You know, how to make relationships. It's sharing each other's confidences. But the point is, what difference does it make to my bhajan, whatever you do? And I could also say that what you think of me is none of my business. It doesn't really matter, essentially. If you're a little insecure, then your various reputations will be very important to you. Sometimes people think their identities are what people think of them. They think that is them. If someone loves them today, they think they're a great person. If someone hates them tomorrow, they think they're a bad person, themselves. They're living their life by it's a psychological deficiency. And we're all coming from these psychological disturbed backgrounds. The whole material world is utterly psychologically mad. Completely mad. And it's just living off, feeding off this, making the false ego stronger. We become stronger when we try and condemn other people. This gives us, in our own psychologically disturbed mind, an idea that I'm better than someone. This is called material consciousness. That's what it means. That's what material consciousness is about. It's as far away from sweetness and love as you can get. That's why they're all suffering so tragically. That's why we must quickly run out there and embrace them and love them and feed them some prasadam and tell them about, you know, the spiritual reality. But the way to tell them is to show them how much affection you can give them. It's not with words. Words I've just described. Anyone can say words. It doesn't make you a special person because you can say nice words. But what are the acts? What is the feelings in your heart? You know?
In support of that, Gurudev many times told people also to joke with each other on a personal level. He said, don't do. Because it will offend, one day it will offend the other party or one of the parties. This is because I see that a lot also, that devotees like to joke with each other, and for a long time it goes very well, but sometimes in the end people get hurt.
I think,
and he warns for that.
Yeah, this is I've thought about this often, because this is when your relationship with an individual becomes very, very, very sweet. You start to enjoy that relationship, and that enjoyment is not really conducive to the path of bhakti always. If you're enjoying talking about the Bhagavatam, but if you're enjoying, I've had this relationship with a particular individual, and we have such a way of speaking that's so pleasurable, we just like fly together. But then if it gets too much, then something negative always seems to come in there. Krishna himself will show this is not the path to try and enjoy our relationships. We're trying to associate with each other to increase our bhakti. As soon as we try and enjoy by joking too much, like you're saying, we become so happy together. So I'm so happy in this world, why not take another 20 births? What's the problem? I like it.
So Gurudev was very expert in showing how to joke in a non-personal way.
Yeah.
He was very humoristic, very.
Yeah.
and laughing so much,
Yeah.
but not in the cost of another person. He was very
We need so
expert.
much education. You should give classes to me. You should speak to these people. No, you have so much qualification.
No,
No,
Gurudev
but
told
these...
me not to do it, so I'm
Did
very,
he?
yeah. Thank you, Gurudev.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
it's really true.
That's a
In
blessing.
Italy, he said.
Wow. Really? No, but it's true what she's saying. Gurudev would be so expert, so humorous.
Yes.
Like Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he was also so humorous.
Yeah.
One day, you know, he came out and he'd been staying with devotees for a week or so and he was leaving. And one young girl came up to Prabhupada and said, "Oh, you look so beautiful today, Prabhupada." And Prabhupada said, "Don't I look beautiful every day?" I mean, just immediate. Like, there's so much goodness there, just bubbling, you know. And Gurudev also. Tell me a joke about Gurudev, Vichitri. Tell me one when Gurudev was really, really humorous. Can you think one?
In relation to
One time, I went to Govardhan when it was still under construction, but you could see what was coming. So I said, "Gurudev, this place is so wonderful." And he says to me, "You are so wonderful."
Ah, yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Always the mode of goodness is bubbling with sweetness. How can it find some fault in another person who's living in Vrindavan, chanting Hare Krishna, is probably a guru bhai of yours, is coming in front of the deities every day? What fault could we find? Krishna doesn't find a fault. Are we better than Krishna? Gurudev has said that if there is any problem with any individual, Krishna himself, in his own sweet time, will purify that inebriety of the heart. All Guru will do that, but never us. I'm saying this, and I want to receive a benediction that I become purified of this ghastly habit. You know, because I really do know it's checking my bhakti. In so many times it'll check my flow. It's so unnecessary. It's interesting what Madhavi was saying, that you almost feel you don't want to go into a relationship because you'll probably hear all these negative things about, you know, how individuals are seeing each other. And it seems to happen in the society of devotees very, very prominently. It's a phenomenon. I'm confused about it. We're talking about the highest sweetnesses in existence, and yet we've all got carving knives ready to chop each other up if we go one step over the line where we think we're supposed to be treading. Why are we so proud as to be thinking that I can condemn somebody else? Why are we like that? Tell me.
I read a definition. You said it was criticism is based on envy, right?
Yes.
So I think the Sanskrit word is dvesha.
Dvesha is hate. Dvesha is hate, yes.
So in
Matsara is envy. Yes.
dvesha is hate.
Yes.
Okay. So I read in Madhurya Kamdambini, it said that the definition of dvesha was being repulsed by the source of misery, or your source of misery. So if we think somebody else is causing us misery, and we become repulsed by that, rather than just accepting it, that the misery is actually coming from ourselves, or our own ignorance, then that could be it.
He's saying that this word dvesh means hatred to something that makes me unhappy.
Right.
That's what dvesh means. So if I'm feeling that some individual is responsible for my happiness, and instead of my happiness they're making me unhappy, then I'm feeling some disturbance with that individual.
Repulsion.
Repulsed by them even. You know? Whatever the psychological defects are, we have to pull ourselves to the higher state of vision. Constantly, repeatedly. This is what it means, banging our heads with a broom every day. Is bringing ourselves to the higher vision. We do have choice. Every day we have choice. Every minute, every second we have a choice. We can go this way, or we can go this way. We should start making contracts with each other. $2 every time you say something negative about someone. It's amazing. I've done it with a few people. It's remarkable. If I'm traveling with one older person for some days or something, and I know we have a tendency to discuss, you know, the world affairs of politics of the mutt and this, and like we're very important, we understand it all, you know. Make the contract, and only once you have to sort of go across it. Only once you have to pay up. And it's like miraculous. You just stop doing it. Because it's not really where the heart wants to be. It's not positive. It's material. It pulls us into the material concept. Don't worry about how it manifested, how it came. You know, it's a psychological disease from our barbarian backgrounds. And it's the disease of the world at large today. It's packed, crackling with envy. Everything is envious. You know? We need to take strongly to this verse, the conclusion of this verse, to relish and drink this beverage, you know, regularly. Hear it. If no one is speaking, then speak it yourself. Take it deeply. Krishna, who Krishna? Brajendranandan Krishna. His Dham, the gopis, Yugal Geet, Brahmar Geet, Venu Geet, Gopi Geet. Dive into these Geets. And then Bhagavatam itself. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's merciful Audarya Shakti, holding these conceptions for us to take. Think of these things more. If you had to give class every day, you would probably have to fill your head with all of these philosophies, more than you would have time to fill our heads with anything else. If we had to attend class every day, and somebody was kindly asking you questions about things, what was the class about, making you think in this way more, then these negative thoughts would go away. We should question each other. Oh, how is your bhajan today? Or tell someone what realization you had today. Give the positive alternative to each other. Give it. I've talked about giving to the materialist, but we should give to each other while we're here, as much as possible. Give to each other something to make them feel spiritually enlivened. Somebody gave me some beautiful gifts today. I don't know who it was. They gave me a chadar and some sweater. You all gave me this? It says here from everyone, there's a letter. Is that from many of you? Yeah. From you? Ah, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Very much. Indeed. But I feel so grateful to you. I was explaining to Achyuta that actually I've told you before also that when Indian musicians travel, they travel with a whole trunk full of chadars, because when they finish their recitation, they hand out gifts to all the people who kindly came to listen to them. Otherwise, their music wouldn't be as sweet without the reciprocation of the audience. So I'm so grateful for all of you for coming so regularly and so much on time. I really appreciate your punctuality in the last couple of weeks. So, because now is time over, and I'm just expressing my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for coming and discussing these blissful topics together. I think we've been through practically every Siddhanta that I've understood myself anyway. We've related, we've tried to make the whole picture of where we're going, how we're going, where is bhakti coming from, what is knowledge, who is Krishna, who is Gurudev, what is Guru Nishtha, the different stages in bhakti, the different pastimes of the Lord. We've tried to give that entire picture, how it's all. And now it's interesting how Krishna's bringing it round to this final point of carefully examining our own personal relationships, because this is what's going to make us happy or not happy. If we are in good, harmonious relationships with everyone around us, we're going to be very satisfied. That's called the mode of goodness. And from the mode of goodness, your bhajan and practice can go very fast. But if all my relationships are fractured and unharmonious, and I hate this one, I don't like this one, then how will your bhajan proceed? From what place will you be moving off from? So these are just fundamental, or a fundamental truth. So there are many wonderful personalities that we can associate with to be purified of these lower tendencies. Jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Yes, Annaya Praha Tattvam Iha Paramam, this Dasamula. This is 29 and 30. Annaya Praha Tattvam Harim Iha Paramam Sarva Shaktim Rasam. This Dasamula. Maybe by Krishna's mercy, we can one day sit together and discuss this Dasamula. This is an equally exhilarating topic. Really, 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 really. Again, this Dasamula, it gives us a staircase, to understanding what am I doing here, how is it proceeding. It's in a slightly different language. There's different terminologies to the Siksastakam, but still, it's as blissful an explanation. And this Dasamula, I love to speak on that also. So another time perhaps we can do the Dasamula. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is Sambandha being a religion in this verse?
Yes, of course. Yes. What is Sambandha? Knowing myself. This is described completely in the Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the prayojan? The prayojan for the jiva is to worship the gopis, and the prayojan also is to have the vision of Brajendranandan. Both of these are the prayojan. And the Abhideya is very simply to follow the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He came himself as his own devotee. Not only did he tell us the path, but he enacted it himself. He walked on it himself. He traveled all around India for 6 years, chanting Hare Krishna, just benedicting the whole populace with the potency of the holy name. So this is entirely the Abhideya that is contained within Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as well as the Sambandha, as well as the Abhideya, as well as the Prayojana. So all tattva in existence is within this verse. Even if if it's difficult for you to learn the verse, at least fully know the meaning of it. And if someone is saying this verse in a class, you immediately, oh yes, I know that verse. I know the purport of it. If someone is saying these different things. Most of the verses are quoted from Rupa Goswami, following in the path of the bhakti development.
What is the meaning of Amlam in this verse?
Amala means sweet or nectarian. But how is it translated here? Amala, spotless.
Because mal means contamination, and amal means
Without contamination.
No
Very beautiful. This is the etymology. Mal means without contamination. And mal means with contamination. And amal means without contamination.
Actually, mal means true.
Mal means truth.
It's true, yeah.
And amal means without truth.
Those truths, those
Dharma, artha, moksha, yes.
So, in this Bhagavatam,
Yes.
there knows to do with contamination.
Right.
So, what it gives, it actually gives the Pancham Purushartha, the fifth.
Yes.
That's the exact meaning.
Yes. This is the exact meaning. It gives the fifth Purushartha. There are 4 fundamental truths: Dharma, Artha, Karma, and Moksha. These are the 4 principal truths. But this is the 5th. This is the Purushartha. This is the 5th truth. And this is the Amala Purana. Okay. Thank you. That's good.
You said that during this class we could have some questions that had come up during the...
Okay, well, there's only a few minutes left now. Go ahead.
I think it was yesterday, at the very beginning of the evening class, we talked about 2 different groupings of understanding the shlokas in the Siksastakam. Saying that the first 5 shlokas were Sambandha down, then in a different grouping,
There's sadhana bhakti, bhav bhakti, and prema bhakti, yes.
so they're not conflict with each other.
No. The sambandha is the like the sadhan, you can say. And then the bhav is the tasting of that purification. Read the Siksastakam. Make a diagram. No, there's no conflict there. Okay? Srila Gurudev ki jai. Shri Siksastakam ki jai. Shri Radha Gopinath Ju ki jai. Ananta Gora Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Go. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadgavaya Namaha. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadgavaya Namaha. Yadhavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Yadhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giri Hari Gopinath Madana Moha. Giri Hari Gopinath Madana Moha. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gupta. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gupta. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. O Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhakta Raghunatha. Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhakta Raghunatha. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Dasa Raghunatha. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Dasa Raghunatha. Echai Goshai Kori Charana Vandana. Echai Goshai Kori Charana Vandana. Yaha Hoite Vignanas Api Sapura. Echai Goshai Tebe Muitara Dasa. Echai Goshai Tebe Muitara Dasa. Tasa Pera Padarino More Panchagas. Echai Gosha Adere Charana Sevi Bhakti Sanavasa. Janame Janame Hoi Abhilas. Echai Goshai Jebe Prajakolo Vasa. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Kadila Prakash. Ananda Bolo Hari Braja Vrindavana. O Ananda Bolo Hari Braja Vrindavana. Shri Guru Vaishnava Padam Jai Mana. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Kori Ashe. Nama Sankirtana Kori Narottama Dasa. O Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta O Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. O Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bo. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bo. Srimati Radharani Vrishabhananandini Vrajeshwari ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath Ju ki jai, Shri Sachinandana Gaurahari ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Rupa Nuga Guru Varga ki jai, Shri Siksastakam ki jai, Gopinath Bhavan Yatra ki jai, Gopinath Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo